Alright guys, so I made this video completely without sound. So embarrassing because I forgot to turn my mic on. But basically, what I'm doing is I'm showing you the updated version of how to make my infamous smoothie. So we start with getting almond milk and Isopure. And Isopure is a wonderful protein powder. The one that I use is flavorless, but I know that they, in the past, made ones that had different flavors. They also made a drink that was, I believe, 30 grams of protein. It just left your mouth feeling a little silly afterwards, like kind of dried out. So definitely something that with the drinks that they made that you would want to, have water with and all that. So I'm just taking out a little over, the recommended thing for 25 grams of protein, putting it into my blender bottle. And the reason that I do this is because sometimes what happens is the Isopure gets a little bit clumpy when you just do the almond milk and the Isopure straight into the blender. So I like to go ahead and, utilize my blender bottle and break up any type of clumps, break up anything that is, not going to be nice and palatable on my mouth. I have a really big thing about texture, so. I just shake it up really well to make sure that, there's no clumps. And then I use a Starbucks cup to measure out the amount of ice that I put into my blender. It just always seems to be like the perfect amount. I think it's about like 12 or 16 ounces, something like that. But, just to scoop the ice in and then scoop it into the blender. So after I put the ice, what I do is I grab my baby spinach and baby kale mix. And I basically just get like a fistful about, sometimes a little bit, more than that. And I just like stuff it into the blender because I want something that is going to be full of spinach, full of kale. I love those vegetables. So from there, what I do is I take an avocado and I cut it in half. So once I do that, I make about 2 cut marks into the avocado lengthwise. And then widthwise, I do about 3 cuts. So that way there's like little cubes of avocado. So that way when it's blending, it's like really easy to blend. So this avocado happened to be particularly a little bit ripe, just a bit, but that's fine, no worries. And then I go ahead and I always already have a Ziploc bag for the other half for when I make another batch of this smoothie. So after that, what I do is I take my banana, and there's really no need to cut a banana per se. You can just very easily tear it up and throw it in the blender. So that's exactly what I do. I'm just getting it all in there, a full banana, because I always need potassium. And then, because I'm a little bit OCD, I do all the stuff that requires cutting one right after another. So I go ahead and I start cutting up strawberries. Now, these strawberries that I bought happen to be really big. So while normally I would do maybe 4 strawberries, I'm only going to do 3 this time because, like I said, they are humongous. And they are, perfect for how I want it to taste. I kind of already know, because I make this so often, I kind of already know, how I like it to taste, the flavors that I like to taste. So if I have strawberries that are super huge, then I know it's not going to require as many as it typically would. Now after that, I revisit my blender bottle, but you don't need to screw the top off at all. In fact, just go ahead and take the little top off for where you would sip through and pour that into the blender. Now, after you do that, it's like, okay, awesome, free and clear. It's going to be much easier to blend too because now you have the liquid in there already. And this is where I hit the fruits that I'm using. So I'm just taking the rest of what I have of my blackberries that I had left over and just putting it, into the blender and then throwing the empty container away. Next thing I do is I put my raspberries in. And on this one, it's always different. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a few. Again, it really depends on the flavor profile that I want. And then I go for my blueberries. And I love my blueberries for the antioxidants and for the taste. So I know right now that the blender is pretty full, so I'm going to go ahead and smash it down just a bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and take chlorophyll, which what it does, I always make the joke, it's chlorophyll, not chloroform. I always use chlorophyll because it's a detoxifying agent, so I love that. So now I've pretty much put everything that I'm going to put inside of the blender. And I go ahead and I put ice crush first. But as you can see, it kind of already blended it up. But I go ahead anyways and I do blend. And then after I do blend, I go ahead, I take the top off. And because I love easy cleanups, I like to just, clean my stuff pretty much as soon as I'm, done using whatever it is that I'm using. I just place it in the sink. And I'm super stoked to try my drink. But I'm realizing I don't have a cup right there with me. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one. I have 2 glasses. Well, they're the same glass, but it's a set. And I have a glass that I use for this, right, for my smoothies. And then what I also have is my swell container, which you will see in just a few moments. Right now, what I'm recapping is the macros that we hit, which is all of them. And now I am grabbing my cup, my glass. And then you can see it's kind of like a greenish, like a greenish looking liquid. And it tastes super good. So don't mind the appearance of the way that it looks. You have to remember that chlorophyll has a very strong pigment. So because of that, it'll, have it be green. However, there are times when if you have more like blueberries and blackberries, a higher ratio of those, then you will find that it is more blue than green, for sure. And this is something that, as much as I love to drink it, as much as I enjoy it, you do need to make sure that because of the chlorophyll that you're drinking enough water There I'm also talking about if you don't like the consistency of, the vegetables and stuff, the way that you can kind of get around having like that it be something you feel or have a craving to chew is by cutting off the stems or by chopping up your vegetables if you would like. For me, it doesn't really bother me, so I'm fine with it. But I am a huge fan of this smoothie. And now I'm going to bring out my swell container. So what I love about this is that basically what happens is this blender is the perfect fit for filling my glass and then also filling the swell container. Now, why I love the swell containers is because they will keep the smoothie so cold, like a Yeti. That's what it honestly reminds me of. And they, I can't even tell you for hours. It'll stay fresh for hours. It will be super cold and it is amazing. So I had never heard of this company before. I, didn't know anything about it, but found one in our pantry and I was like, okay. And then I fell in love because of how cold it keeps all of my drinks, but especially my smoothie. And it's also like the perfect size because again, one blenderful fills a glass and fills the swell container. So I'm a huge fan, very huge fan. And I'm pretty sure I'm just kind of like recapping some stuff, also talking about different options. So I always say feel free to play around with the types of vegetables you use, the types of fruit that you use. You obviously do not have to use isopure protein. It's just what I prefer to use. You can use something other than almond milk if you would like as well. That is always an option that's always available to you. This is something that is like my infamous, smoothie recipe, but it is definitely something that can be played with. It is definitely something that you can feel free to experiment with and enjoy things with. If you're not using the chlorophyll, you won't have the need for drinking as much water, but I still think that it's a good one to include. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. I hope you definitely try your own smoothie, and I will see you in the next video. Be well, stay wild.